I was at the diner with my daughter and son-in-law when they went to pay the bill. That's when a stranger slipped a blue box onto my table and whispered, "You'll need this tonight, Mr. Garrett." Before I could ask who she was, she vanished into the parking lot. I hid the box in my truck and drove home to my empty farmhouse. Empty since my wife drowned 10 months ago. When I finally opened it, I screamed in horror. I'm grateful you're here with me. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Drop a comment below. I'd love to know who's listening to this old man's story. 10 months after my wife's funeral, I sat in Betty's diner, watching my daughter lie to my face. "Dad, you look tired," Bridget said, reaching across the table. "Are you sleeping okay out there all alone?" I pulled my hand back. "I'm fine, Bridget." "Are you, though?" Preston, my son-in-law, leaned back with that practiced smile. "We're worried. That property is 450 acres. Winter's coming and you're 66, I finished. Not dead. "Of course not," Bridget said quickly. "But be realistic. You can't maintain it alone. Not without Mom." There it was, the knife twisted just right. Maureen had been my partner for 43 years. Then 10 months ago, her car went into the New River. They pulled the vehicle out 3 days later. Driver's side door open, no body. The current was strong, they said. Bodies sometimes never surface. We buried an empty coffin. "We have an offer," Preston said, sliding a folder across the table. "Pinnacle Properties, $2.9 million. You could move into town somewhere easier. This is our family legacy," I said. 3 generations of Garretts have worked that land. "Dad," Bridget's voice cracked, "Mom wouldn't want you struggling. She'd want you safe." I studied my daughter's face. 38 years old, but I could still see the little girl who'd helped me feed the horses. Something lived behind her eyes now, though. Something worried. Maybe scared. "I'll think about it," I lied. Bridget smiled with relief. "That's all we ask." She glanced at Preston. "We should get the check." They headed to the counter. I watched them through the window, heads bent together, whispering. That's when she appeared. The woman materialized beside my table so suddenly I startled. 50s gray hair, pulled tight, dark coat. She carried a small blue box. "Mr. Garrett," she said, not a question. "Yes." She placed the box on the table. Her hands were steady, but her eyes darted to the counter where Bridget and Preston stood. "You'll need this tonight." Barely a whisper urgent. "I don't understand." 11:15. "Answer it when it rings." She glanced toward the counter again. "And Mr. Garrett trusts no one." Before I could respond, she turned and walked swiftly toward the exit, disappearing into the parking lot. The blue box sat there, ordinary and threatening. I looked toward the counter. Bridget and Preston were still there, neither having noticed. I grabbed the box and shoved it under my jacket just as they turned back. "Ready to go, Dad?" Bridget asked. "Yeah, I managed. Let's go." They walked me to my truck, made small talk, extracted another promise that I'd think about their offer. Preston's black BMW gleamed in the afternoon sun, expensive, polished, perfect on the surface. I waited until they drove away before tucking the blue box behind my seat. The 30-minute drive home passed in a blur. The woman's words kept circling. "You'll need this tonight. Trust no one." And the way she'd looked at Bridget and Preston. The farmhouse stood waiting. 2 stories of white clapboard that Maureen and I had painted 5 summers ago. The barn to the left fields, stretching toward the Appalachian foothills. 450 acres of memories. I carried the blue box inside and set it on the kitchen table. For a long moment I just stared at it. Then I made coffee, anything to avoid opening it. But as darkness crept across the farm, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I waited until midnight to open it. When I did, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Inside was Maureen's phone, the one that went into the New River with her 10 months ago. For 2 hours I sat at that kitchen table, unable to move. Maureen's phone lay in front of me like evidence from a crime scene. The official report said accidental drowning. Her car went into the New River during a storm. Single vehicle accident. Case closed. But this phone told a different story. I picked it up carefully. The screen lit up. Full battery. 100% after 10 months. The wallpaper hit me like a fist to the chest. Our 40th anniversary party. Maureen in that blue dress, my arm around her, both of us laughing. Her eyes bright. alive. That was 3 years ago. I pressed the phone icon. Call log empty. Messages empty. Everything wiped clean except that one photo. My throat tightened. I stood pace to the window. Outside, darkness had swallowed the farm. No lights for miles. The isolation felt threatening now. I forced myself back to the table. That's when I noticed the paper tucked between the phone and its case. I pried it free. Small, folded tight. 11:15 p.m. Answer it. The kitchen clock read 10:47. I should call someone. Norman. The police. But the woman's words echoed. Trust no one. She'd looked at Bridget and Preston like they were dangerous. My own daughter. The idea was absurd. But Maureen's phone sat in front of me, impossible and real. I made fresh coffee, checked the doors, something I'd started doing after Maureen died. The clock ticked forward. 11:02, 11:09, 11:14. Military discipline kicked in. Whatever this was, I'd face it. Gather intel first. Stay calm. At 11:15 exactly, the phone rang. Born to Run by Springsteen, Maureen's favorite, Our Wedding Song. The sound shattered the silence. My hand shook as I reached for it. Unknown caller in white letters. I pressed green and raised it to my ear. Hello? Silence. Not dead air. I could hear breathing or electronic humming. Hello, louder now. Who's this? More silence. Then finally a voice. It came through distorted mechanical, altered like a synthesizer. But underneath, I could swear I heard something familiar. A cadence I knew. Justin had said, one word, my name. And despite everything for half a heartbeat, I thought, Maureen, don't trust Bridget. Don't trust Preston. Don't trust Sheriff Tucker. A pause. I gripped the phone tighter. Your life is in danger. The line went dead. I sat frozen phone still pressed to my ear, listening to silence. The clock ticked to 11:16. The house creaked. Outside, something moved in the darkness. I set the phone down carefully and stared at it. The screen dimmed, then went black. An old man alone in an empty house holding his dead wife's phone, being warned away from his own family. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every sound made me tense. Every shadow seemed wrong. I kept replaying that voice. The distortion couldn't hide everything. There was something underneath it, something that made my skin crawl with recognition and impossibility. Maureen was dead. I'd sat through the memorial service, watched them lower an empty coffin into West Virginia soil, accepted the sympathy, the casseroles, the awkward silences. But someone had her phone. Someone knew things. Someone was warning me. At dawn, I was still sitting at that table, the phone in front of me, questions multiplying in my head. Who was the woman at the diner who made that call? What did Bridget and Preston have to do with any of this? And Sheriff Tucker, why warn me about him? I needed answers, and I knew exactly where to start looking. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? By 7 a.m., I sat at Maureen's old desk, the phone call replaying in my head. That distorted voice. Those names. Bridget, Preston, Sheriff Tucker. I pulled up property records online. The farm was still in my name. No liens, no red flags. I searched news archives for Maureen's accident. Same story everywhere. Tragic accident, storm conditions, vehicle recovered, no body found, case closed. Nothing that explained a dead woman's phone or a midnight warning. At 9 o'clock, gravel crunched in the driveway. Bridget's silver sedan. My jaw tightened. They climbed out carrying expensive coffee cups, the kind from Charleston, 40 miles away. A special trip, not casual. I met them at the door. Dad! Bridget's smile was bright, practiced. We brought coffee, that dark roast you like. I took the cup but didn't drink. Old military habit, never consume anything you didn't see prepared. Little early for a visit. We were worried after yesterday, Preston said, stepping inside like he owned the place. You seemed stressed. I'm fine. Are you? Bridget followed him to the kitchen. Because, Dad, we need to talk seriously. Winter's coming. You're out here alone. What if the furnace breaks? What if you fall? What if something happens and no one finds you for days? The fear tactic. Make the old man scared. I've survived 66 winters, I said evenly. I'll survive this one. Preston leaned against the counter, arms crossed. The offer from Pinnacle is incredibly generous. $2.9 million. You'd never worry about money again. You could move into town, one of those nice senior communities. I'm not moving into a senior community. Then closer to us. Bridget jumped in. There's a great condo development near our place. Modern, safe, everything on one floor. I don't want a condo. Preston's smile thinned. This isn't about what you want. It's about what's realistic. This property is too much for one person. That's my problem, not yours. We're family, Bridget said, voice catching. Mom would want you safe. She wouldn't want you struggling out here alone. I looked at my daughter. Really looked. The designer clothes, expensive jewelry, carefully applied makeup that couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. She looked exhausted, worried, maybe scared. I'll think about it. I lied again. Preston straightened. That's all we're asking. But Justin, we can't stand by and watch you struggle. We'll do what's necessary to help you, one way or another. The words hung in the air, promise or threat. We should go, Bridget said quickly. Let Dad think. She squeezed my arm. Call us if you need anything, please. I walked them out and watched Preston's BMW kick up dust. Through the rear window, their heads bent together, talking. About me, about the farm, about whatever they weren't telling me. Don't trust Bridget. Don't trust Preston. The coffee cup sat on the counter. I poured it down the sink. After they left, I did what I should have done months ago. I opened Maureen's email account, the one we'd shared for household business. The most recent message was sent 2 days before she died, to a criminal defense attorney in New York named Bernard Klein. Subject line, Re-Confidential Investigation. My hands were shaking as I clicked the email. The message was brief, cryptic. Mr. Klein, I've gathered the evidence we discussed. We'll bring documentation to our meeting next week. Thank you for your guidance on how to proceed. M.G. I searched the name. Bernard Klein. Criminal defense attorney, Manhattan. His specialties, organized crime, RICO cases, federal prosecution defense. Why would Maureen need a criminal lawyer? I dug into our shared bank account records. Cash withdrawals. Large ones. $8,000 in March. $12,000 in May. $20,000 in July. All marked business expenses, but no receipts. $40,000 gone 6 months before she died. I pulled open her desk drawer, searching. Behind old bills, I found a small leather journal, handwritten. The entries were sparse, vague, but the last few pages made my blood run cold. Saw them again last night. North property. 2 a.m. 3 vehicles. Unloading something into the caves. P knows I'm watching. Must be more careful. Evidence almost complete. SC says wait for right moment. Soon. The entries stopped 2 weeks before her death. P. Preston. At noon, a knock rattled the door. I shoved the journal back and went to answer it. Sheriff Wayne Tucker stood on my porch, cowboy hat in hand, friendly smile plastered across his face. He'd been at Maureen's memorial service, had personally overseen the accident investigation. Justin got a minute. Something came up about Maureen's accident. I stepped aside. What kind of something? New witness came forward. Says they saw another vehicle that night, following her car before it went off the road. My heart rate kicked up. Following her? Oh, that's what they claim. Wanted to ask, did Maureen mention anyone bothering her? Any problems? I kept my face neutral. No, nothing. Tucker nodded slowly, eyes scanning the kitchen. They lingered on the desk, Maureen's desk. You ever explore those caves on the north section of your property? The question hung in the air, too specific, too strange. Not since we were young, I lied. Why? Just curious. Property that size, natural formations. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Well, I'll let you know if anything else comes up. After he left, I watched his cruiser disappear down the driveway. Something about that visit felt wrong. The timing, the questions, the way he'd looked at Maureen's desk. I went back to the drawer and pulled everything out. That's when I found a folded note tucked behind the journal. Maureen's handwriting, shaky, urgent. The truth is buried where we planted the memorial oak. If you're reading this, I'm already gone. Evidence is with me. SC has backup plan. Trust Agent Sandra Cooper. Trust no one else. Especially not local law enforcement. Below that, a phone number. And below that, I love you, Justin. I'm sorry. My chest tightened. I read it again. Memorial oak, the tree we'd planted for her mother 30 years ago. North garden. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, text message. Maureen's husband, meet me at your barn tonight, 11 p.m. Come alone, SC. I tucked my old service pistol into my belt habits from the Army Die Hard and headed into the dark. The November night was cold moon hidden behind clouds. The barn sat 100 yards from the house, a dark shape against a darker sky. I moved carefully, scanning the perimeter, the way I'd been trained decades ago. Check your exits. Know your terrain. At 11 exactly, the barn door creaked open. Mr. Garrett, a voice from the shadows. Don't be afraid. A figure stepped into the glow of the battery lantern I'd left on the workbench. Woman late 40s, professional clothes, FBI credentials held up where I could see them clearly. I'm Agent Sandra Cooper, Federal Bureau of Investigation. She lowered the badge. Your wife was working with me. The words hit like a physical blow. Maureen working with the FBI for 18 months. She came to us after discovering illegal activity on your property. I leaned against the workbench, trying to process. What kind of activity? Your property has a natural cave system on the north section. Someone's been using it to store contraband. Drug shipments moving up from the southern border. Cooper's expression tightened. Your daughter Bridget is involved, but I don't think she fully understands what she's part of. My stomach dropped. Your son-in-law, Preston Thornton, he's the key player. Gambling debts. $180,000 deep with dangerous people. He was approached by an organization. Offered a way out, use your property as a waypoint. Store shipments in the caves temporarily, then move them north. And Maureen found out. She discovered it by accident. Saw unusual activity. Late-night vehicles. People she didn't recognize. She investigated on her own, dangerous but brave. Cooper moved closer. When she came to us, we asked her to help build the case. Gather evidence, document everything. She did. For over a year, she collected proof. Photographs, recordings, financial records. Then someone found out, I said. Cooper nodded, emotion cracking through her professional facade. We believe her car was tampered with, made to look like she lost control. She went into the river, but it wasn't an accident. Her voice dropped. I was her handler. I should have protected her better. The barn felt smaller suddenly, colder. The evidence she gathered, she buried it somewhere on this property before she died. We've been searching for months. Haven't found it. The note I found today, I said. Memorial Oak. Does that mean anything? Oak tree we planted for her mother. North garden. Cooper's eyes lit up. We need to find that evidence. Tomorrow I'll have my partner meet you, Agent Stephen Hayes. He can provide more details. But tonight, she stopped mid-sentence. A sound. Vehicles approaching. Headlights swept across the driveway, visible through the barn window. Cooper's hand went to her weapon. How did they know? Through the window, I saw them clearly. Preston's black BMW. Sheriff Tucker's cruiser. And behind them, a third vehicle I didn't recognize. They're here, Cooper whispered. She shoved a piece of paper into my hand. 4 words scrawled in pen. Memorial Oak. North garden. Wait. But she was already gone, vanishing through the back door into darkness. The barn door swung open. I had nowhere to hide. I held my breath as footsteps entered the barn. Pressed against the wall behind the old tractor, I could see them through gaps in the machinery. Preston, Sheriff Tucker, and 2 men I didn't recognize, large, hard-faced, armed. He's been asking questions. Preston's voice was tight, agitated, searching through Maureen's things, looking at bank records. Relax. Tucker's tone was dismissive. He's an old man. He doesn't know anything. That FBI agent's been sniffing around again. Cooper, what if Maureen told her something before? She didn't have time to tell anyone anything. Tucker's voice went cold. We made sure of that. The words hit me like a bullet. Tucker. The sheriff who'd investigated Maureen's death, who'd stood at her memorial service with his hat over his heart, had been part of killing her. A third voice spoke heavily accented. We have problem. Man at diner saw wife get box. Blue box. One of Navarro's men. What box? Tucker demanded. Preston cursed viciously. That's how Cooper contacted him. The phone. Damn it, they're already steps ahead of us. They moved deeper into the barn. I pressed myself flatter against the metal, not breathing. We need to move the last shipment this weekend, Preston said. Clear out the caves before the feds get a warrant. Navarro's people are getting nervous. What about the old man? One of the strangers asked. Tucker's response was casual chilling. Accidents happen on ranches all the time. Farm equipment is dangerous. Tractors roll. People fall into wells. They were planning to kill me. The same way they'd killed Maureen. They searched the barn, checking the loft, looking behind hay bales, but it was large and dark and cluttered with 40 years of accumulated equipment. After 5 minutes, Preston grew impatient. He's probably in the house. We'll deal with him tomorrow. Tonight we secure the shipment. The vehicle started and drove away, taillights disappearing down the driveway. I waited 10 minutes in absolute silence, heart-hammering rage building in my chest like pressure in a boiler. Maureen hadn't just died. She'd been murdered by these men, and Tucker had covered it up. I remembered Cooper's note, Memorial Oak, North Garden. I slipped out the back of the barn and moved through darkness. The North Garden was 200 yards away near the tree line where Maureen used to walk in the evenings. The Memorial Oak rose massive against the night sky. 30 years old, planted the day we buried Maureen's mother. We'd chosen that spot together because it had a view of the mountains. I dropped to my knees at the base and started digging with my hands. The November ground was half frozen. My fingers scraped against roots and rocks. I dug faster, deeper desperation and rage driving me forward. Maureen had hidden something here. Evidence. Whatever she'd died protecting. My fingers hit something solid, the edge of a waterproof container. I clawed at the dirt around it, yanking it free, soil flying. Dad, stop. I turned. Bridget stood there, flashlight in hand, tears streaming down her face. She wasn't alone. 2 men flanked her large armed faces hard. Behind them, Preston emerged from the shadows. I'm sorry it came to this, my son-in-law said. I got to my feet slowly, keeping the box behind me. Dad, please. Bridget's voice cracked. Give Preston the box. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand your mother is dead because of you. Bridget flinched. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what Preston was. Shut up, Bridget. Preston's voice cut like a blade. How could you... I looked at my daughter. How could you do this to us? We were drowning in debt. The company, the house, everything. Preston said it was just storage. Just for a few months. I didn't know it was drugs. I didn't know Mom found out. I didn't know they would... She collapsed to her knees, sobbing. The armed men stepped closer. Mr. Garrett, that box belongs to us. Hand it over. So you can destroy what my wife died protecting... Preston signaled the men. An engine roared. An unmarked sedan crashed through the fence. Cooper at the wheel, passenger door open. Justin, get in. I ran. Gunshots cracked, warning shots high. I dove into the car box, clutched to my chest. Cooper floored it, crashing through the fence onto the back road. Behind us, Preston's men scrambled for vehicles. You okay? Cooper's eyes flicked to me. I'm fine. She drove like she'd trained for it, tactical, aggressive. We lost them on back roads. 30 minutes later, a small motel outside Lewisburg, room 107. Cooper locked the door. Let's see what she died protecting. I set the box on the bed. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside USB drive labeled Evidence MG Maureen's Journal and a sealed envelope addressed to me. Cooper plugged the USB into her laptop. I opened the envelope. Maureen's handwriting blurred. Justin, my love, I'm sorry for the secrets. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. The evidence on this drive will stop them. Give it to Sandra Cooper. Trust the FBI. Please don't blame Bridget. Preston manipulated her. Be strong. Live your life. I love you always. Maureen. My throat closed. Cooper focused on the screen. Justin, look. Photos, nighttime activity at Cave's vehicles faces. Audio files, Preston negotiating, discussing shipments. Financial records. Money trails, offshore accounts, Tucker's deposits. Cave maps marked with dates and times. This is everything we need, Cooper breathed. A knock at the door. Cooper checked the peephole. It's Hayes. Agent Stephen Hayes entered, tall, early 50s, arm in a sling. Mr. Garrett. I'm sorry about your wife. She was incredibly brave. I shook his hand. Hayes pulled up a chair. The organization is run by Arturo Navarro, Mexican cartel. Sheriff Tucker's been on their payroll for 2 years at $15,000 a month. Preston's gambling debts totaled $180,000. And Maureen, her brake line was cut, vehicle tampered, made to look accidental. We suspected but couldn't prove it. He gestured to the laptop. Until now. When do we move? We need 2 days. FBI teams from multiple field offices. We do this right, take down the entire network. Can you stall them? Keep them thinking you don't have the evidence? I looked at Maureen's letter again, her handwriting, her love. 2 days. I looked at Hayes. 2 days, I can do that. For Maureen, I could do anything. 48 hours felt like 48 years. 2 days of waiting, 2 days of acting normal while FBI teams positioned themselves around my property like invisible sentries. 2 days of knowing my daughter was part of the conspiracy that killed my wife. Now, at 7 p.m. on a cold evening, I stood in my kitchen and watched the vehicles arrive through the window. Bridget's silver sedan pulled up first, then Preston's black BMW, Sheriff Tucker's cruiser, and finally a black SUV with tinted windows, Navarro's men. Cooper's voice crackled softly in the tiny earpiece hidden in my ear. We're in position. 12 agents around the perimeter. Stay calm, Justin. We've got you. I opened the door before they could knock. They filed in one by one. Bridget looked sick with worry, her eyes red-rimmed and swollen. Preston was cold and controlled, his jaw set tight. Tucker wore his fake friendly smile like a mask, and the 2 men from the SUV looked exactly like what they were killers for hire. We gathered around my kitchen table, the same table where Maureen and I had shared 40 years of meals of coffee in the morning, of late-night conversations about our dreams. Now it was surrounded by the people who'd murdered her. The silence stretched out thick and suffocating. You wanted to talk? Preston finally broke it, leaning back in his chair with false confidence. So talk. I took a slow breath. I know everything about the caves on the north property, the drugs being stored there, the money changing hands, and I know what you did to Maureen. Tucker stood up fast, his chair scraping against the floor. Careful, Justin. You're making some serious accusations here. Am I kept my voice steady, controlled. Or am I just repeating what I heard you say with my own ears 2 nights ago, in my barn? She didn't have time to tell anyone anything. We made sure of that. Those were your exact words, Tucker. Preston's face changed. The mask slipped. Realization dawned in his eyes that I'd been there hidden, listening. Dad, please! Bridget's voice cracked with desperation. I never wanted Mom to. Shut your mouth! Preston's hand shot out, gripping her arm hard enough to leave bruises. Not another word. I saw it clearly then. The control he had over her. The way she flinched at his touch. The fear in her eyes. Maureen spent 18 months building a case against all of you, I said, looking at each of them in turn. Every shipment documented. Every transaction recorded. Every conversation she overheard. It's all there. Every single piece of evidence. Tucker's hand moved slowly toward the gun at his hip. Where is it? Preston's voice was deadly calm. Where's the evidence? Already with the FBI? The lie came out smooth, practiced. Everything. The agents have had it for 2 days. They're building their case right now. You're bluffing, Preston exploded, slamming his fist on the table. One of Navarro's men stood his weapon, appearing in his hand like magic. The boss won't like this. We need to clean this up, right now. No, Bridget suddenly screamed, her voice raw with anguish. Dad, I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know about Mom. I swear I didn't. Preston said it was just money laundering, just temporary storage. I didn't know it was drugs. I didn't know people would die. She turned on Preston, then years of manipulation and control, breaking apart. You killed her. You killed my mother. You said it would be simple, that nobody would get hurt. But you killed her. Preston's backhand caught her across the face with a crack that echoed in the kitchen. I said, shut up. I lunged forward to protect my daughter. Tucker blocked me, hands grabbed, voices rose. The room erupted into chaos. Then suddenly the lights cut out. The FBI signal. Darkness. Shouting. The crash of doors being kicked in. FBI, hands up, federal agents. Flashlight beams cut through the black like searchlights. More shouting, gunshots, warning shots fired into the ceiling. Someone tackled me to the floor, and I realized it was an agent protecting me from the crossfire. The emergency generator kicked in. Lights flickered, then steadied. The scene that emerged from the chaos Navarro's men face down on the floor, hands cuffed behind their backs. Tucker pressed against the wall, weapon stripped away Cooper, reading him his rights in a voice cold as ice. Preston trying to make a run for the back door. Hayes, despite his injured arm, taking him down with a move that spoke of years of tactical training. Bridget collapsed in her chair, hands raised high, not resisting tears and mascara streaming down her face in black rivers. More FBI agents flooded in. The kitchen that had been my sanctuary became a command center of federal authority. "You okay?" Cooper appeared at my side, her hand steady on my shoulder. I nodded, unable to speak, watching them process Preston. He fought against the cuffs, cursing, threatening the mask, completely gone now, to reveal the monster underneath. Bridget was helped to her feet. She cooperated completely, offering her wrists for the handcuffs without resistance. She looked at me one last time. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry." I turned away. They led her to the FBI vehicle. Through the window, I saw her look back once more, her face a portrait of devastation and regret. I didn't wave, didn't acknowledge her. The vehicles pulled away one by one, red and blue lights, fading into the West Virginia night, taking away my daughter, my son-in-law, the corrupt sheriff, the cartel enforcers, taking away the conspiracy that had murdered my wife. The farmhouse fell silent, empty, just me and the ghosts of everything I'd lost. 3 months later, the world looked different, or maybe I looked at it differently. Spring had come to West Virginia. I stood on the farmhouse porch, morning sun warm on my face. The trials were over. Preston Thornton, 25 years federal prison, no parole. Bridget plea agreement, 8 years. Sheriff Tucker, 15 years. Arturo Navarro extradited to Mexico. 24 others arrested. The cartel operation dismantled. Justice. Cold comfort, but justice. A week after the trials, I flew to New York. Bernard Klein's office was all glass and Manhattan skyline. His smile was warm. "Your wife was remarkable, Mr. Garrett. Incredibly brave." He pulled out a folder. "Maureen set up a trust fund before she died. The cash withdrawals, she was funding it secretly. $315,000. My throat tightened. "She wanted you protected. The farm safe." Klein slid an envelope across the desk. "She left this for you." I opened it with shaking hands. "My dearest Justin, if you're reading this, my mission is complete. The trust will keep the farm safe. Don't mourn me forever. Live, Justin. Really live. Plant gardens. Help veterans. Find joy again. That's what I want for you. All my love always, Maureen." Back at the farm now, life had found a rhythm. The cave system was sealed, the north section fenced off. Blake and Madison Cole helped run the property, organic vegetables, small livestock. The farm was profitable again. I volunteered at the Veterans Crisis Center in Lewisburg 3 days a week. Norman visited every weekend. We were closer now than ever. I'd seen Bridget once. Prison visit. Emotional. She was different, sober, taking responsibility in therapy. The road to forgiveness would be long. Maybe possible someday, but not today. This morning I walked to the north garden. The memorial oak was in full spring bloom. The ground where I'd dug up evidence was covered with wildflowers now. Cooper had planted them. "For Maureen," she'd said. I stood there, sun warming my face. "I did it, Maureen. Got justice for you. The farm's safe. I'm safe." Tears came, but not bitter ones. "You were right. Life goes on, and I'm going to live it. For both of us." Wind through the leaves sounded like a whisper. Peace finally. Not happiness yet, but peace. And that was enough. I turned back toward the farmhouse. Blake and Madison waving in the distance. At 66, I'd learned that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about what you do after you've been shattered. Maureen knew that. And standing here on the land she'd died protecting, I finally understood. Looking back on everything, I realized how blind I was. I trusted too easily, loved too deeply without seeing the warning signs. That's my true story. one of those grandpa stories about loss, betrayal, and the price of ignorance. Let me tell you what I learned, so you don't end up like me. First, trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. I ignored the subtle changes in Bridget, the way Preston looked at our land with calculating eyes. Don't make my mistake. Second, protect what matters. Maureen died trying to save our legacy. She saw the danger I refused to see. Guard your family, your home, your values before it's too late. Third, lean on God. In my darkest hours, when I had nothing left, faith carried me through. The Lord works in mysterious ways. He brought me Maureen's phone when I needed answers. He sent Agent Cooper when I needed protection. He gave me strength when I thought I'd break. This is a true story, my true story. Not like other grandpa stories you hear around a fireplace. This is real, raw. The kind of grandpa stories that leave scars but teach truth. But here's the final lesson: God's grace is sufficient. Even in brokenness, He makes us whole again. So I ask you, what would you have done differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this true story touched your heart, please hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support means the world. God bless you all.